Just start by telling us what makes Lancashire great for business.
Yeah, simple question, a long answer. I think the first thing, most of all, is the political ambition here, and I think you've heard a bit from Philippa and Adi about their ambition for Lancashire. They've pushed that forward. Now the Combined County Authority stretches that still further. They are ambitious as an organisation, as a council, to really press hard in all sorts of different directions around business. So it's around supporting major developments, and Adi's mentioned some of those, and I can mention some of the other ones that are also in track, but also skills. Philippa mentioned that, and that support for business, whether that's advice or access to finance. Again, lots of interesting initiatives that are really sort of on the edge of sort of areas that around the country that aren't doing a lot of that at all, actually. So I think, I'm delighted to have come to Lancashire because there's a lot happening here, and I think that's one of the main reasons is that political ambition.
James, from your point of view, you have a company that operates right across the world. You've got a growing base in the States, and you've chosen to have your main headquarters, your UK base, in Chorley, in Lancashire. Why did you choose Lancashire?
Well, it's where I lived from being 11 years old, Mike. But no, a big part of that genuinely was Rosebud, because part of our journey when we first started, we sold our first cruise in July 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, and we operated from home, obviously. So we were absolutely remote for the first 12 months of working, but we were looking for a base. And there was a great base in Chorley called Strawberry Fields, which is an A-grade office space, which is absolutely fantastic. There just happened to be some space there. But when I was reading Lancashire Business View, see, I'm trying to name as many people in the room as possible. But genuinely, we picked up a copy of Lancashire Business View, and on page 2 and 3, there was an advert for Rosebud. And Amin knows this from conversations that we've had before. That's genuinely how we got in contact with Rosebud. And when we got in contact with those guys, they were just so easy to work with. So, I actually live in Bolton now, but why not base the business in Chorley when there's a great office space, when there's great funding available, and also, Rosebud, as Amin's already pointed out, work with other funding providers as well. So we might have hit Rosebud's limit, but we also work with FW Capital. We also work with private individuals to, ensure that we've got enough capital to grow our business. And Chorley as well. What a fantastic geographical place it is as well. Really easy to get to. There's so many people that you can attract in Chorley as well.
A big thing for you is kind of looking after the team and then look after the business.
Exactly, Mike. I think one of the smartest decisions we made in hindsight was to work from a set of vision, mission and values. So our Vision 2020 is really straightforward. Colleagues, customers, cruise lines, nothing is too much trouble. And what we mean by that is we put our colleagues absolutely first. Anyone who comes into our office will see, we've really invested in that. So we've got a fantastic working environment. Our mantra when we were investing in those offices was to make them offices that people wanted to come into rather than felt they had to come into. So we invest in our people who then look after our customers, who in turn look after our cruise lines. But we also have a very big mission as well, Mission 2030, which is to become the world's biggest seller of luxury and ultra-luxury cruises. So, they're our, guiding principles, and we have a set of values too. But, we follow our vision, which, will hopefully lead to our Mission 2030.
Just very briefly, when you tell us that you look after your staff, if somebody was to come and work for you, what do they get?
Well, they get an executive cooked meal each day. They get an enhanced pension. We introduce people, which has gone really down very well, especially with our 12 apprentices that we employ. We introduce them to their very own wealth manager who comes in every 6 months and spends an hour one-to-one with each people. And every single person in the business gets access to private medical insurance as well. So, we don't just say we look after people. We genuinely try and do our best for them.
And from your point of view, I always think one of the kind of the biggest strengths that we've got in Lancashire is our diversity in so many different ways. You're the chair of the Lancashire Digital Skills Partnership, but you're also a big advocate for women in business. What do you think we can do to encourage more women and more diverse business founders?
Well, I think certainly as far as women's concerned and women in business, give them more money and give them money quicker than we are doing presently at the moment. It's very interesting. If I can just touch on an organisation which I brought to Manchester about 20 years ago called TIE, which is an American business based in Silicon Valley. You ought to become a member, actually. Florida. And it was actually, I was approached because of a small group of entrepreneurs in Manchester that actually used to go to Silicon Valley to these events. And basically, the thing that really sparked them was the fact that in the room, there were people that had made their money and that actually philanthropically were prepared to give it back. And instead of just writing checks for charities, they would invest in early stage businesses. So I think my strength and my interest and passion is just how we get, now with more focus on females, it wasn't predominantly females then, but if I fast forward into the last 8 years, the focus has been amazing, the number of female founders in the US, which is very interesting. So we got together as a group. We're actually, we have 67 branches in 42 countries, all operating the same model. We actually run business competitions, and we run business competitions with money. I think awards are terribly important for early stage businesses, but one of the things that is also terribly important is that they don't lose the enthusiasm because they haven't got enough money to grow their bright idea. So within TIE, as an organisation, of course, and I can see some familiar faces here of investors, you're always looking for that unicorn. And that, of course, is very important. But to get the unicorn, you've really got to do a lot of research and due diligence into your early stages. The competition that we've recently been running over the last 6 years has been for women. And so there's certainly no shortage of female founders. So they're not the problem. We've had over 3,000 applications. In fact, this morning I was just dealing with the media because the prizes that we send the winner of the UK finals, which actually will run this from Manchester, going to Bangalore this weekend to compete. There'll be $100,000 cash fund, and then there'll be there's going to be just 2,700 investors there and entrepreneurs, and they will have the opportunity to showcase their work and to get investment. And as every year we've been running it, and I sit on that judging panel, they've never ever come back without investment. So I think what I'm just wanting to sow the seed for here is just maybe think a little bit wider, think a little bit about making it easier for investment to go into early stage businesses. And do remember, entrepreneurs, if I may say, are a very funny breed. And particularly women too are also very wary about investment that goes into their businesses. So they're just not prepared to take it from anyone. So there's a little bit of hesitancy there. So I think more work has got to be done on getting our Lancashire entrepreneurs to the fore. A lot of them that I know do not invest in Lancashire. They invest in companies outside of Lancashire. So stage one would be securing and ring fencing that group of people and putting opportunities to those people and just making them a bit more evident in terms of their interests within the county. And I don't think anybody particularly has got a good database, apart from myself, of course. And it's a secret. But of just trying to excite them that we do have businesses here to invest in. And I think also, if I could just touch on, am I okay? Okay. Oh, right. If I could also just touch on investment coming in, because we're seeing this. We've so much to offer, of course, in Lancashire. But if we look particularly at East Lancashire, where there's a lot of manufacturing going on, there's a lot of investment going into East Lancashire in companies, coming from a lot of German investments coming into that area. So manufacturing is obviously quite an important part. And strangely enough, our competition this year, we've seen more entrants that are creating products than ever before. Previous years has always been tech, and I think quite a lot of you VCs here and private equity people have been more interested in finding the unicorn in that sector. Well, I think you maybe ought to wake up a bit and look a bit wider, because I think Miranda's probably sitting on some, and anybody else here from a chamber will have them there. But, wake up is what I'm saying.
Thank you, Anne.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Miranda, as well as running the East Lancashire Chamber, you are also a member of the new Lancashire Business Board.
Mm-hmm.
Just tell us a little bit about that.
It's been really exciting. The business board, I think you've given me the number. It's 17, is it? Thank you for giving me that number, because I didn't know that off the top of my head. Really positive group of businesses from across all the sectors, different ages, different sexes, proper demographic, but really ambitious for what Lancashire can achieve, and very much trying to be the driving force in terms of the language and the narrative and outward facing into the community about what Lancashire can achieve, and making sure we're communicating that properly to the media, to the government, to the, all of the potential partners, to those across the Northwest, the other combined authorities across the Northwest, the Northern Powerhouse 11, just really trying to communicate that message about the fact that Lancashire has a huge amount to offer, is a really ambitious place. It's got a lot that we can potentially deliver for the UK economy. We need to be looking for those partnerships between combined authorities in the Northwest. And hopefully that's a very vibrant group of businesses who are saying, this is the challenge, we're up for it. We want to be that public face of communicating what Lancashire has got to offer. And scary facts, things like, if we want to really achieve the most we can, we need to be working in partnership with the other combined authorities, for instance, in the Northwest especially. And we can't just keep pace with the growth of Manchester and Liverpool. We need to bridge the gap. We need to start catching them up, so that then when there's a combined sort of relationship of everyone saying, okay, what can we offer government as a Northwest block? How can we sort of wield the maximum amount of investment? We need to look like that's a level playing field across the Northwest. So Lancashire needs to develop even faster. And that group of businesses have really got that ambition. They really got the bit between their teeth, and it was really positive. I think we all left the last meeting feeling, right, okay, yes, we've got an economic strategy we're building. There are big projects in there we want to secure investment for, and we want to help Lancashire punch well above its weight. And that was really positive to see.
Absolutely. Nikki, you're on the early stage investment board. What kind of practical things can businesses do to navigate those really tricky early stages of growth?
I think it's really difficult when you start off. It's an education point as to, where I've got this brilliant idea, this brilliant concept, where's the help, where's the support, where are the people that I need to go to actually, bring this more than a concept. And I think, to be honest, a really good starting point is Rory. I think everyone in the room knows Rory in Funded. It's not only does he bring founders and funders together from a monetary point of view, but you go to the events and you meet the people, and you've got people there that can help you with your pitch deck, give you that constructive criticism, what you're doing wrong, what you're doing right, but can also educate you in terms of not all VCs are the same. They're not after the same type of investment business. I know tech was mentioned, but I think a lot of it is tech enabled now, is what's going on. So it's more about understanding that help and support that's out there. A lot of the time money is critical. A lot of founders, early stage businesses spend a lot of their own money and don't necessarily have the funds to get the right people around them. But it's understanding at these events, and really blowing your trumpet here, Rory, but kind of you get the supporters there, so you get the advisors there that understand the concept of early stage and want to help these people. It's very much like Anne says, we want to make sure that we keep the talent and the businesses in this area. So it's doing as much as we can with the limited resources. And the more we do in terms of early stage advisory board is we're making sure that it came about as a bunch of stakeholders coming together from public and private, identifying where the gaps were in the market in this county. And it's very much about how we can all work together to help and educate and actually make those founders stay and grow in this area and actually attract money from elsewhere. So it's not necessarily Lancashire money, Lancashire VCs, Lancashire Angels. It's all about creating that network where we can bring people from outside of region, but making sure that we can really invest in talent businesses and really thrive in this area.
Okay. We've got a little bit of time for questions from our panel. So again, if you've got a question, stick your hand up and then tell us who you are and what you do. Should I start off again? You talk quite a lot, Miranda, about kind of, really not just kind of throwing money at businesses, really trying to get to know people and get to know kind of their ideas. And you talked as well about Lancashire punching a bucket's way. I think, we're already there. If we want to grow that, what can you do as a business board to really help Lancashire punch a bucket's way?
I think I'm going to touch on two things there, if you don't mind. You mentioned about the fact that we really need to get to know our businesses and we really need to get to know the potential. And I think that's where the organisations around the rung that are specialising in getting funding and supporting businesses are coming from. So you've got Rosebud and you've got Ty and you've got all of the various funders around the room. You've also got our low carbon tech support business, which is called Redcat. And all of those have a common theme in that it isn't just wave a pack of banknotes at someone and say, go on, show me that you qualify for this. It's actually about the developed support for those organisations. It's providing that whole ecosystem of support, supporting those companies to develop, to innovate, to how to be ready to apply for funding, to handhold them into it, to find them the right kind of funding. And if you do all of that, then you actually do make them succeed. So we've just had one of our Redcat companies, Carbon Bits, signed an MOU in Azerbaijan at COP29 for £10 million. But that's exactly what the business board's about. It's about the fact that we have to have knowledge about who are our expert sectors in Lancashire. Who are the businesses where we're really, really good at this, where it's aerospace or automotive or unmanned aerial vehicles or low carbon tech or health innovation or creative, digital. Where is the specialist support to actually help those businesses develop? How do we really help them punch above their weight? And on that business board, you've got those people who are operating leading businesses in those sectors and can help do that. But you've also got the whole wraparound support. Sort of at least 30% of the people in this room are that wraparound support to help those businesses really thrive. And hopefully the business board and the combined authority is a fresh injection of impetus behind us all to do that and to really open up those vistas of Lancashire really achieving all that it can do.
You mentioned, James, about applying for Rosebud funding. Just sort of tell us, you're doing as a bit of kind of background about Panache, but just tell us kind of in practical terms what you turned initial money into in quite a short space of time as well.
Well, I think when we first engaged with Rosebud was 2021. So we were probably around about 12 months old. And I think we had 12 employees, something like that. So we fast forward, we've had 3 rounds of funding from Rosebud. We're just going through our 4th round of funding with Rosebud now. We've got 62 employees in the UK. We've got 12 employees in the US. Last year we turned over £25 million. So, we've grown quite considerably. Even if we look at the US, where that side of our business will be bigger than the UK, no doubt about it, in the next 3 years, most of the work goes on in Chorley. Because all of our marketing's social or digitally led, all of our supplier relations with the cruise line happens over Teams, or we go over there and meet with them individually. It's just our sales. Quite obviously Americans like speaking to Americans, so that's why we have people on the ground in the States. But over the coming years, that will be the lion's share of our business coming from the US, but a lot of that will be done in Chorley.
Simon, when you kind of look at the kind of situation that the public sector is in terms of kind of finances, how confident are you that in 5, 10, 20 years' time, authorities like the County Council will still be able to offer these kind of packages of support to businesses?
Well, I think it's absolutely crucial. I mean, a lot of the work that the combined authorities focus on is about economic growth and prosperity. That responsibility sits with business, but in partnership with local government. So we need to make sure that we're agile, we change how we provide that support now, whether it's access to finance, whether it's advice. So I'm convinced in the next 5 to 10 years that will still be in place, because I think that will be crucial as pressures on the economy grow. The role of the public sector in providing support to businesses, I think, will be absolutely crucial. And the role of the business board, again, as Philippa said, it's an independent body. It will set its own agenda, but I think its priorities will be some of those strategic thought pieces around the growth plan, but also how are we engaging with our businesses? How are we making sure that we're using the resources that we've got to maximise that offer? And again, back to my first point, the combined authority is about economic growth, so we need to make sure that we're providing the right service and the right support.
We've heard it from James, we've heard it from other people, but you must really see firsthand the kind of the benefits of the support that authorities like the County Council can offer businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, we've got a great team. Listening to Panache, we've got a great team of individuals within sort of Amin's area, Andy Walker's area, that are providing that support. So it is absolutely crucial.
Well, let's have a round of applause for our first panel.